Hello everybody, it's 23 October 2024. I'm leaving our Lake Nona clinic and heading back home, and maybe we'll get a barricade test at the end. This is using Tesla FSD 12.5.4. Make sure I'm not a liar here. So I'm going to check my Tesla app. It's been a while since we did that initial video. And get in the road here. Actually, it's 12.5.4.1. There's so many points here. Supposedly there's another version on the way, but the updates have been a little behind. So I guess they found some more problems. As most of you probably know, many people have been saying this version is a regression from earlier versions. You can refer to our initial video, which wasn't terrible but wasn't great. In any case, I'll go ahead and activate the FSD and let's see how it does. Our issues before were speed limit control and ignoring speed limit changes, such as on ramps and in construction areas, and sometimes ignoring the speed that is set. As you can see here, the speed limit here is 45 and the max speed is set at 50. But we're getting ready to get on a ramp that has a speed limit sign saying 25-mile-an-hour limit, but because it's a yellow sign with black text, FSD typically ignores those signs. So it just says the speed limit is 70 now, and the speed is set for 79. On the automatic, I've got a 13% speed offset. It is slowing down to take the ramp at 35, but that's still faster than the 25 that is called for by the sign. So we still have some issues with following speed limit signs. So we're on the on-ramp. There are some construction cones to the right. Not really any traffic behind, so it's going ahead and sliding into the traffic and merging over. So right now, again, the speed limit is set at 70 for the road, and 79 is the FSD limit. As we accelerate up to 76, 78, 79 in the fast lane. So I've got my hand lightly touching the wheel just in case, because this is a construction zone and this is Orlando. This is Highway 417, which is the southern beltway of Orlando, heading westbound. And as always in Orlando, there is construction. So I'm using the Insta360 cam, but I'm using it in single camera mode, recording 4K video at 30 frames per second. Mounted on a selfie stick wedged between the driver's seat and the center console, just a little bit below eye level. So the GPS says 49 minutes from home. Hopefully the camera doesn't overheat. Because coming back to the neighborhood, we have those swinging security barricades that FSD to date has ignored every time and tried to crash into them, requiring a disengagement to prevent an accident. But I've not really tested this particular version yet, so let's see what happens. So we're traveling through Lake Nona area, passing by the Nemours Children's Hospital and the Wave Hotel, as well as the UCF Lake Nona Medical Center, the VA Medical Center, and the medical school for UCF. They call this area Medical City. It's also a growing residential area, not too far from the Orlando International Airport. So we've slowed down a little bit because of the traffic up ahead of us. Have a little bit of a lane shift here caused by the construction. We took that while actually accelerating a little bit. In some ways, complaining about FSD is like complaining that your dog is no good at chess because you can beat it 2 out of 3 times. But of course, in the case of FSD, anything less than perfection can be downright dangerous at times, so you certainly need to pay attention. But even an honest skeptic has to admit that what it is able to accomplish is somewhat of a miracle. But like I said, having accidents caused by the FSD really are not acceptable, even though we know humans have accidents perhaps more often than FSD does. So it's a pretty high bar that is required. But just the fact that the car can detect the lanes, and there's all kinds of old lane stripes in construction areas and lanes that shift around in unpredictable ways, to me is still pretty amazing. Even if it's anxiety producing at time, wondering if the car is going to manage it, but usually it does. But usually is not good enough, unfortunately. So you certainly have to be alert. So I just got a little nag there for some reason. And this time when I moved the volume up and down, it did not recognize it. So I don't know where that came from. I actually had to twist the steering wheel. Previously, just moving the volume control up and down would be enough to let it know you're here. And I was certainly looking straight ahead at the road. I am wearing sunglasses, but it says it's still tracking me, the little green dots there. That was the first nag, and that was about 9 minutes into the drive. 41 minutes to the destination, or 19 miles. Another minor lane shift here. We're about to cross the Florida Turnpike. Again, we're on 417 heading west. That's just to orient you as to where we are. So it says that the speed limit was 65 for a bit there, but it did not change the max speed from the 79, and now it says the road speed limit is 70 again. I'm not sure where that came from, as I didn't see a speed limit sign. Now I do see a speed limit sign that reads 65, but the car did not notice that, so it still says the speed limit is 70. The sign was a little bit off from the road, more so than typical, but I saw it, so the car should have seen it. So it looks like we're going to take the Orange Blossom Trail exit, presumably due to traffic on the usual route. So we're maneuvering over to the exit lane. And it thought about taking the turn to the lane. It showed it on the GPS and then drove right past it. So I got a little confused about the position of the ramp, or didn't see the ramp very well. Now we're on a merge lane, we're accelerating, there's a car accelerating to the left, so it's trying to decide. That car just moved out of the way, so we're merging over. So that was kind of less than ideal. So it decided it was going to take the ramp. It briefly showed the route changing to the ramp, but then it drove right past the ramp. And now it's going to try the next exit, which is the John Young Parkway exit. Accelerating up to 75 miles an hour. Now the max speed is set to 70. Now the max speed is set to 65, which is below the speed limit, so I don't know where that number came from. It's just picking whichever speed limit it wants, both in terms of trying to read the signs as well as what it sets as its max speed. Now it says speed limit 45, max speed 45. So who knows where these speed limits are coming from. So now the ramp speed says 25 miles an hour. There's one sign, two signs, three signs. We are slowing down. The car says max speed 35, but it says speed limit 45, which is incorrect. So they're both wrong. But we are slowing down to 30, maybe because of the curve, even though the actual ramp speed limit is 25, as we saw from 3 consecutive signs, all of which were ignored by the FSD. So So it might be safe to say that the FSD, maybe it has an idea of what the speed limit is, but the driver sure doesn't. So now it says the speed limit's 45 and the max speed is set to 25. Very random. We have a stop sign somewhere here. No traffic, so we're coming on. And it went ahead and took the middle lane. So now the max speed is set up to 50 with the speed limit of 45, which is more or less appropriate. So it's really hard to understand after all these years how they haven't solved the speed limit problem. But you know, sometimes when you're doing software development, working on one section of the program can have unintended consequences in other sections of the software. And particularly when you do limited to no testing before release, this is going to be a problem. It's hard to believe that they couldn't figure this out in about 30 minutes of testing before the release. So apparently the testing is left to the customers. So they either failed to detect the errors, or they detected the errors and decided it was more important to push out the software than it was to fix this bug. What do you think? Leave a comment below. I'm a big fan of Tesla and Elon, but it's getting harder and harder to defend the regression and lack of progress in FSD at this point. You wonder how big is the team. Maybe it's cheaper to pay some fanboys than it is to put more resources into the software development. So I just raised the camera a little bit so the camera is pretty much right at my eye level. It's a little bit to my front, maybe about 7 inches from my forehead now, a little to the right. So I think I'm going to post this video in 2 versions, one of which where I speed up the non-speaking parts, and one that's just the raw video. So we're driving through the Hunters Creek neighborhood. I used to actually live here back around 1993 or so, 92. This is in South Orlando, heading south towards Kissimmee. This road is called John Young Parkway, named for the astronaut that was one of the first test pilots for the space shuttle. The first flight where it was launched off of a 747 just to test if it could land and be controlled in the air, which of course it was. They actually had ejection seats on that version. Those were later removed once they increased the size of the crew to a level that would not support ejection seats for everybody. Just in case you're on Jeopardy and need to answer that space trivia. So we're in this right lane, which very quickly above, in front of us, looks like it turns into a right turn only lane. I'm not sure what the point of this lane change was, but let's see what happens. Unfortunately, this happens a lot in Orlando. You'll be in a lane that looks like it's a normal traffic lane, and then they'll decide it turns into a turn-only lane, which can trap you if there's a lot of traffic, as there certainly is today. So there's nothing on the GPS match to indicate a lane change is necessary, so this was an FSD decision. So for this intersection, there is a right turn lane, which we're not in, but for the next intersection, this apparently is the right turn lane. It says exit only. Let's see. There are 2 through lanes. And it just put a turn signal on and crossed 2 lanes to get back into the traffic lane. So I guess that was a nice recovery from the error of being in that lane in the first place for no good reason. It could have just stayed where it was and everything would have been fine. "30 minutes and 13 miles left." We are now officially in Osceola County in Kissimmee, having left Orlando behind. Still John Young Parkway. For those of you that are book fans, I just released my second work of fiction called Heart of Venezuela, also available in Spanish as Corazón de Venezuela. It's a political and medical thriller, of course, based in Venezuela, and also includes a lot about Cuba and history of Cuba and the United States. It's available on Amazon for Kindle, hardcover, paperback. Audiobook version is in production right now. I can leave a link in the description below. Again, it's Heart of Venezuela. The first book was Secrets of Potosi, which is based in Bolivia. Also available in the same formats, again with the audiobook in production right now. If you do manage to read the books, I'd appreciate if you'd leave a review for the books, as that helps the search placement just as it does for these videos. And don't forget to like the video, share the video, subscribe to the channel if you like this sort of content. And that's our commercial for today. I'm already 7 chapters into writing the third book in this series, which will be based in Cuba. And when I say series, this is about a couple, a cardiologist and his nurse girlfriend, who travel and get into various adventures. I've always enjoyed reading fiction books that can teach things, whether it's history or technology, and both of these books do each of those things. So the stories are false, the drama is false, but there's lots of true history and explanation of the current situations in both Bolivia and Venezuela, which is more and more in the news these days, particularly Venezuela with so many refugees here. Maybe you didn't know it, but there are more refugees from Venezuela in the world right now than from any other country, as 25% of the population is left to flee the socialist dictatorship, and another 25% planning to leave if the dictatorship doesn't fall soon. So whether you care much about South America or not, it certainly affects us here in the United States. And since we're at a stoplight, it's kind of hard to see this, but that's the front cover of the book. That was the Spanish version, Corazón de Venezuela. Right now, the town of Kissimmee is probably about 60% Hispanic, with the vast majority being from Puerto Rico, but there are plenty of people here from Venezuela, Cuba, Colombia, and various other parts of Latin America. But it makes for great food, great music, lots of places to go dancing, salsa, etc. So it really makes the town a lot less boring than it would be without this influence. It also means if you work in a job facing the public, it behooves you to be bilingual. So I had my second steering wheel nag, but this time it did respond to touching the volume control. And not just touching it, but I raised the volume and lowered the volume and the nag went away. And this was 20 minutes after the first nag. So the first nag came at 9 minutes and the second one at 29 minutes. And the GPS says we have 24 minutes till destination. This video is going to end when we get to the security entrance of the neighborhood. We have 2 entrances. I'm not sure which one the GPS is going to take us to, but both of them have security gates that open based on a barcode on the side of the car. And in all previous versions of FSD, the security gate has basically been ignored, as it usually accelerates towards the gate. It'll sometimes slow down for the speed bumps in front of the gate, front of the barricade, I should say. So the barricade comes first, then the gate. The FSD usually has seen the gates enough to slow down and wait for them to open, but the barricades is pretty much ignored. And I generally have to disengage the FSD before letting it hit it. So up ahead, we're coming to this intersection of Pleasant Hill Road and John Young Parkway, which has a really strange setup with respect to the left turn lane. They put barricades to separate the left turn lanes from the regular traffic lane, and as a result you have to commit to these left turn lanes about 2 intersections before the main intersection, and the FSD generally has failed to do this. So there's a chance I'll have to disengage just to keep us from missing this left turn. But again, we'll see if it does any better this time than the last few times. I'm not really sure how they can fix this with respect to FSD other than having better mapping data. This is a relatively recent change in the last few months to how they work this intersection. And humans mess this up all the time. So again, I don't want to hold the FSD to too high a standard here. If the humans are messing up, I'm not sure how they think the FSD is going to do that much better. To me, it's just a poorly designed intersection. So we are in the left lane. That's a good start. 2 left turn lanes are going to open up, but very quickly those left turn lanes are going to be inaccessible due to the barricades separating the left turn lanes from the through lanes. I guess they put those in to avoid the people that speed up to the front and then try to cut in ahead of the other people waiting. We're just east of the Kissimmee Airport. I'm not sure you can see it, but they're little balls on the power lines to warn the airplanes of the existence of those wires. This is on the final approach to runway 33 at the Kissimmee Airport. So at this point, the 2 left lanes are available for left turns. The first one into the Oaks subdivision and the second one on the Pleasant Hill Road. So they have added some signs, which of course the FSD is not going to be able to read, to try to explain that. So the first left is Oaks Boulevard and the second left is Pleasant Hill, where we want to be. And at this point there's a single lane for through traffic to our right. So now there are going to be 2 lanes for through traffic, and they just open up another left turn lane. So we need to be over there. And look at this. We have a barricade, we're in the through traffic, and we cannot make a left turn here. So the barricade stops for this next intersection. It'd be kind of a strange place to try to make a lane change, so that's not going to happen. So again, we've missed the turn. And I wasn't fast enough to deactivate. Because of the nature of how that turn opens up, it very quickly gets closed off. So if you don't get in there immediately, you're not getting in. And the FSD still doesn't realize that it's missed the left turn. But as you can probably see here to the left, these barricades have the 2 left turn lanes now blocked off. So we're going to have to go beyond the intersection and take the back streets to get back over to Pleasant Hill. So again, me, the human, I couldn't get over there in time. So of course FSD is not going to be able to, so it's just kind of an unfair road design here for no good purpose. They've talked about making this a big roundabout or doing an overpass, but nobody seems to be able to commit to doing it right. Hopefully this thing doesn't try to turn left from this 3rd lane that we're in right now. But I'll give it a chance to see what it's going to do. I'm just curious now. Hand on the wheel, or near the wheel. So we got the green light, 4 green lights up ahead. No turn signal, and it went right through with no attempt to turn left. So the GPS did show a left turn, but we didn't. The FSD wasn't fooled by that. So now we're going to make a left turn, take the side street, the back street, to get over to Pleasant Hill again. And you see there's like 5 cars here, and at least 3 more behind me, which means the FSD is not the only one to miss this turn. Apparently, a lot of people missed this turn. So there are 6 cars in front of me and at least that many behind me. Vision is a little blocked here, but the car thinks it can see and it scoots on across. So that wasn't too bad considering. Most people are just doing a U-turn back there, but the side street thing may be a little quicker. Came a little close to that trash can, but didn't hit it. It was just about in the traffic lane. And here we are coming back to the Pleasant Hill Road that we missed before to take a right turn and continue on our way. Stopping for the stop sign, and then creeping up, and there's a car coming, but we got here first, so we're good. So back on course. So it looks like we'll be taking the first entrance into the neighborhood, which does have a security barricade. It also has a guard shack, so I may have to help it to get into the correct lane for residents, which is the right lane, which will go through the barricade. But normally that does not require deactivation, as I can just turn the turn signal on to make sure it gets in the correct lane. That's about 3.5 miles from here. So it's done a pretty good job of the speed limits on these regular roads, but on the interstate it really had trouble. So we're 3 miles from the turn. At some point we'll need the left lane. Plenty of time available for that. So we're now moving over the turn lane. That's an improvement. One of my persistent complaints is waiting too long to get into the correct turn lane. Not sure if it was doing this for the turn or just because there was slow traffic over there, but I'll take it. So we have some caution lights for school zone, 20-mile-an-hour speed limit. Got 2 signs there. The car didn't read either one of them, so it still thinks the speed limit is 45. It's only the traffic ahead that's keeping us slow in the school zone. So that's another problem. Those signs were black text on a white sign, which normally the car can read. Sometimes I wonder if it reads these signs at all. Maybe it's all just based on map data, and it's just an illusion that it can read speed limit signs, because it sure doesn't act like it reads them. Anybody know the truth on that issue? Does it read the speed limit signs, or is everything based on the map? Because that would explain a lot. When it ignores construction zones and ramp speed limits and school zones. Half a mile from the left turn. So we're in the left lane, but we're going to need to move to the right lane to go through the residence entrance. So I just put the turn signal on, and it's gone ahead and move over now. And there's some other cars in line at the residence entrance. So let's see what happens. I'll have my foot touching the brake, ready to stop us from being the barricade. You can see there is one set of speed bumps in front here. We're slowing down for the speed bump, which we're taking. We're speeding up, speeding up, speeding up. I disengaged. It was about to make it, so the barricade was starting to go up. It was accelerating. It stopped accelerating right as we arrived at the barricade, and the barricade, we might have hit it, we might not have, but clearly I don't think the car saw the barricade, or if it saw it at the final second when it was about to rise up, so it was not a safe entrance. So there's your video for today. I'm going to go ahead and stop it here. Main problems were speed limit, missing an exit lane on the interstate, and the intersection at Pleasant Hill and John Young Parkway that everybody misses, including the humans. And then again, trying to run into the barricade. Had the speed bump not been there, we almost certainly would have hit the barricade because we'd have been too fast to have a chance to react. And between the speed bump and the barricade, we were actually accelerating until the last few microseconds when it seemed to take its foot off the gas, but certainly did not slow down. Anyway, until next time, see you later.